Phase 2.
Why the 2?
2 for forever, man. Ongoing, you know. Which means like 1 is a beginning, and 2 is another step. So, but you know, and Athanasian 2 means forever. So, you know, spelled another way. It seemed like we were like the only 2 guys that were really writing, and then a lot of guys, like when we were going to school, everybody hung out with started picking up on it and started writing. I don't mean like, this is just in the Bronx, okay? Because in Manhattan, people were writing even before we were. You know, there's no question about that. You know, as far as I understand, the mass majority of writers were in Manhattan at that time, basically on Broadway and stuff like that. So that's where the roots of it came from, and then to a degree, guys from the Bronx picked it up. You know, and you're talking back in like '69 or something like that. You know, and technically they don't get the credit for that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you had writers. We used to go over to Broadway and you'd be like shocked, man, because the trains were like demolished, and then you go back to the Bronx and the trains were basically clean, you know. But like '69, '70, I wasn't writing at the time, so there were guys writing before us, Joe in '82 and Coco in Coco 144 and guys like that, who basically started that train orientated like writing and stuff. And Tacky and Julio and them, it was like a different level of that, and they kept moving up, you know.
So who's some of the writers you went up with?
Well, I mean, you know, sometimes I don't like to mention because like, who's this guy? I never heard him, you know what I'm saying, right? In that sense, but you know, I mean, some of these guys sit back reminiscing and talking about stuff and you don't even understand what that, you know. I used to write with Jimbo 6, and you're like, yeah, I hear you, you know. Yeah. But I mean, I've hung around with you know, the majority of the, I mean, I knew just about everybody, you know what I'm saying, who was I mean, surprisingly, like, this is for all the guys who call themselves bombers and so on and so forth. I didn't, me and N were like this, you know, basically, what a lot of people don't know about me is N, okay? The first throw-up king, right? And that was like my man, you know, we were pretty tight, and we hung out. You know, most of us guys, we hung out, a lot of us were friends. We weren't into that, like, rivalry crap, right? We had different writing crews, but it wasn't a thing like us against you and so on and so forth. It was like a competitive fun, you know, as opposed to like the knives and the guns and all that other nonsense, right? You know, I mean, so the main guys I hung with, say at first, was super cool, and when Riff started writing, me and him started getting together, and probably, I would say, a guy named Hot Sauce 575, who a lot of people probably never even heard of him, but I'm saying Hot Sauce was, in his day, Hot Sauce was bad, everybody knew him, so, you know, and that in a sense, you know, I mean, this is like a total history that gets left out, period. A lot of guys, I think they should understand, without the beginning, you have nothing. So, and a lot of that stuff that was around 14 years ago is still a part of what the art is, man, and they should understand that. You know, it wouldn't be anywhere without that. That's the foundation for it, you know what I'm saying? And then you have maybe like 2 or 3 writers that were writing back then to this day that I feel are still contributing to the art now, and that's the difference between them and maybe guys who wrote, you know, say you might say Ked 2 or somebody who was a writer people knew, but his existence within the art was totally different. You know, you're going to probably have more guys who write than guys who have like a crazy impact on the art as far as what the art is, you know, which is always like that, you know. I mean, it's not 5,000 Picassos in, you know, in his time, so to speak, so, you know.
At some point, it changed from just writing on the train to actually being an art form.
Right. Well,
step.
Okay, that's where I feel that whole so-called graffiti terminology should have been thrown out the window, okay? First of all, we were always called writers. We didn't call ourselves blank artists or anything like that. We just called ourselves writers, which in a sense was totally appropriate because of the fact that it is writing one way or another. And if you start to talk about calligraphy, which is different styles of handwriting and writing, more so than not, every borough had their own type of calligraphy, okay? And Brooklyn had theirs, Manhattan had theirs, which was kind of standardist English. And then the Bronx was a derivative of Brooklyn and Manhattan. Okay, that's a fact. So, you know, it's no question about that. You can, if you were to like sit there and look at all the signatures simultaneously, chronologically, or however you want to look at it, you could see it, you know, which came before, and so on and so forth. Now, I think with, you know, people experimenting and so on and so forth, with what you had in your Babylonian existence, which is English and certain types of topography, guys picked up on it and started to use that, you know, as a way to do their names as opposed to just doing signatures. I think so. You could say it went from big signatures to just crazy looking fill-in signatures, you know, which probably were on train stations. Guys like Joe in '82 and these guys, Babyface, used to get big paintbrushes and paint their names like gigantic, maybe like 50 feet long or something, so that supposedly so airplanes could see them, you know, which is pretty wild, right? But I think the first pieces I ever saw that you could say was a piece was this guy CC10, and I think Barbara and Even, and they did these big, like crazy looking pieces on, I think it's 110th Street, and when he stops, and then you could kind of speculate what happened from then. You know, the first guy to do something filled in on the train was Super Cool 223, right? He was the first one to do top to bottoms and all this stuff, and if you was there, you could understand the impact of it, because it's kind of, you know, it's crazy when everybody's doing signatures, and okay, you see some piece on the train, stations and stuff, and you don't pay any attention to it. Oh yeah, CC10 did, and then you see this thing on the subway, right? And Super Cool's piece probably was about that big, so that's like kind of funny when you think about it, okay? And nobody was going for it. You know, they were like, the whole can of paint, man, he must be crazy. You know, you could put like 50, 60 signatures, 100 signatures with a can of paint. And this stuff, at the time, this stuff looked crazy. Even for his stuff, it looked kind of crazy because he wasn't really a stylist and so on and so forth. And nobody mastered a can of paint as far as doing fillings and stuff. And then after that, he did his top to bottom. And I think that kind of like definitely did it, you know, to a degree, because everybody saw that and people were like,